Welcome to the party, pals. So, right out of the gate, we're here to break down barriers, foster collaboration and community, working towards a more secure future for everybody. During this presentation, we probably won't drop the stage link, but if you would like to come up, just drop that in chat and we can go ahead and get you on stage. Definitely share your personal LinkedIn and other resources along the way as well. The best place to do that is actually inside of our Discord server. So if you hop into our Discord server, then you can go over to our live chat channel where you can post your social media links so we can connect with you, and then also any other resources you want to add into the conversation. Whether it's Discord, LinkedIn, or on the YouTube chat, you can also go through and ask questions. We definitely want everybody to feel encouraged to ask questions, even if it doesn't pertain to exactly what we're talking about. Worst case scenario, we could circle back around to that. Don't share anything that you don't want to be public. If you happen to do so, definitely reach out to me on Discord or LinkedIn. You can also contact me at contact@studygrc.org. Also, you guys may or may not be familiar. B-Dubs has her blog here. Definitely check that out on Tuesdays and Saturdays doing the CISSP study group. And then, of course, we have our website as well for the other platforms we have. And we have our contact page for the job readiness live stream at the end, the last Thursday of every month. We have the job readiness and group resume review. And you can submit your redacted resume using our contact form as well. And then we also have our resources page that's been recently updated too. So I'm going to go ahead and transition over here. Today, Matthew is joining us back again to talk about heat awareness. And a large factor regarding this is this has to associate with like our awareness training aspect. Let me go ahead and get him pulled up on stage here. Yeah, and thanks for joining us back again, Matthew. And I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, today we're going to talk about heat awareness. We're starting to get into the hot times of the year, so it's a good idea to touch base on this sort of thing. Not just for the occupational side of things, but also for everyday lives. A lot of people are traveling now. They're going out hiking, they're going to the lake and the beach. So it's a good idea to keep heat awareness in mind so we can all stay safe and get home in the same shape that we left in. So, and with heat awareness, OSHA doesn't have any direct regulations that regulate heat itself for the exposure, but they do have the general duty clause, which pretty much states that an employer has to make sure that the workspace and the employees are kept as safe as possible from recognized hazards, and heat exposure is a recognizable hazard. And it does also contribute to roughly 1,300 deaths in the United States, roughly. That does not include the people that had to seek medical care due to extreme heat exposure. So, big thing is prevention, understanding the risks that come with it. So, generally, you'll start getting heat cramps when it's mild. You need to drink a little bit of water, get rehydrated, but then you can lead to heat exhaustion and heat stroke. Heat stroke is the worst one. That's what people are generally admitted into the hospital for, and it can easily lead to death if you don't get cooled off. Your body does not like being way overheated. So, a lot of the symptoms. So, I'm going to be going back and forth a little bit. So, with heat cramps, generally, it's just cramping of the muscles. If you notice that, you start drinking water, cramps may go away. They might last a little bit until you get fully rehydrated. Heat exhaustion is when you're going to start seeing some of the more main symptoms like dizziness, headaches, possible nausea. I know I don't usually get nausea, but it is a possible symptom. And then later on into the heat exhaustion, you might end up starting to get confusion. Your pulse might get rapid. You might get hot and dry skin. Seeing any of those symptoms on you or someone you're with, good indication. You need to drink a little bit of water or something like Propel or even like low sugar Gatorade. I'm not a big fan of Gatorade because of its sugar content, but Propel is a great substitute if you don't want the sugar. And we have all the signs right here. We talked about the dizziness, nausea, muscle cramps, headache, and then the more severe symptoms. Generally, once you get into severe symptoms, water isn't necessarily your best option. Still drink water, but you also need to move into a cold environment, go under the shade, go into an AC room, or even go out to your car if you're out like at a hiking trail, for example, and you don't have a AC room around. You could start up your car, run the AC 10, 15 minutes. You'll probably start feeling a little bit better. So now we're going to talk about prevention. So hydrate frequently. They recommend drinking 24 to 32 ounces of water per hour in extreme heat conditions. Extreme heat conditions, I would say, is about 90, 95 or above, especially if you're doing physical labor. That's a little bit negotiable if you're not doing physical activity. If you're just sitting outside, obviously, if you're sitting, you don't need to drink as much. But another good rule of thumb is if you feel thirsty, you're thirsty. And you're already starting to dehydrate if you're feeling thirsty. Taking regular scheduled breaks. So, at the place I work at, we do breaks every hour in extreme heat. So that way people can go over to the AC conditioned rooms and they can go over to the shade and they can rest for a few minutes before getting back to work. So that way it gives their body a little bit of time to cool off. And then dressing appropriately, using wearing loose fitting clothing that breathes well, has a good wicking material, always a good idea. It's going to help keep your body cooled off. And then ways to prevent it in a work environment. Providing water is the number one thing. Give your employees as much water as they want to drink. You should never limit that sort of thing. Never heard of a case of people doing that, but always provide water. Even in the wintertime, if it's a physical activity, you should still be providing water. Have the scheduled rest breaks. There's engineering controls we can also implement, like fans, putting up a canopy for shade, having better ventilation to be able to cycle the air. All of those things can assist with it. And then training and educating your workers on how to prevent and how to notice a heat exhaustion or heat stroke early is a key thing to be safe. Heat having heat cramps or heat exhaustion is not very deadly as long as you can catch it early enough to be able to rehydrate. You will be fine. It's when you start going into the heat stroke phase that people end up having to seek medical attention. And then that would also be a OSHA recordable since the person would have went to the hospital. And this is talking about our outdoor activities. So time your outdoor activities correctly. Try to avoid it as much as possible between 10 and 4. I would say closer to 1 to 3. 1 to 3 is usually the hottest times. And if you have to go out during those times, bringing plenty of water and snacks, eating also helps. Keep your body moving. Use sunscreen. It does help slightly, and sunburns are not fun to have. And keep an eye on the people around you. Even if they're not a part of your direct group, if you start noticing someone having these symptoms, offer them a bottle of water or let them know. And always keep water with you at all times, whether you're just running up to the store, quick run, take a bottle of water with you in the car. It can't hurt to have more water than what you need. Then responding to someone that is having a heat stroke or very bad heat exhaustion. So generally, first thing you want to do is you call 911, let them know, get some help on their way. then move them to a cool area. Be careful when moving them, and then allow them to cool. So you could apply like wet cloths on their forehead, their armpits, their groin to be able to start cooling them off. Because the faster we get them cooled off, the less damage that will happen to their body. And if they are unconscious, they can randomly throw up. So if you have them on their back like that, have their head turned so that way they suffocate on it. And then once you get them to a cool area before emergency personnel arrive, always keep an eye on their vital signs. Make sure they're breathing. Let the 911 dispatcher or the emergency personnel that show up any changes. If they started breathing more shallow, or they started having a more rapid or less rapid heart rate, always let them know of that sort of thing because it can change what their goals are to be able to treat that individual. So our key takeaways today is awareness, know what's the signs are and how to prevent them with what we talked about, and having a quick response. Once you start seeing any of these symptoms, you're already starting to dehydrate. So you want immediately, as fast as possible, get some water in you, maybe even have a little bit of a snack. Because the last thing we want is to be able to go in heat stroke and then you can't help yourself at that point. Another good thing to mention is that if the person is unconscious, don't give them water. Don't put anything in their mouth like that, because then they could end up choking on it and suffocate because they may not be able to swallow. And we talked about community. Protect yourself and others. Always keep an eye on other people too. If you happen to notice someone's showing signs of it, offer a bottle of water or let them know, like, hey, you should probably drink something. All right. Do we have any questions today?
Yeah, and I also looked it up as well. And so heat stroke and related illnesses cost US companies approximately $100 billion a year, by the way.
Yeah, it's a very common thing to happen. I think last year at the factory I worked in, we had 9 people, and we're a
Hmm.
small factory. We have roughly 500 employees, and even less than that in production. And we had about 9 people go to the hospital.
Yeah, is there a threshold for the temperature? Like this, is there a regulation on like at what temperature do employees need additional breaks?
So OSHA has the general duty clause. So OSHA has recommendations. So for the heat exposure, they are not requirements, but it's a with the general duty clause, the employer has to do everything in their power to be able to mitigate a recognized risk, which this is considered a recognized risk. So even though there's not anything directly on the books, there's still some data backing it up from OSHA. And I
And then
have
also,
those links available to for them.
yeah, and I did drop those links in chat as well. And then also, Cam did mention that in his experience, people were already walking in dehydrated from beers and darts the night before. Unfortunately, I don't think there's much more you could do about that. Maybe.
Well, and
Would
that's
a heat
another good point. Like, if you're going to have a fun night at the bar, drink some water along with the beer, or when you wake up in the morning, drink water. Try to avoid that as much as possible.
What is the thought on like electrolyte drinks and Gatorades and things like that for the workplace?
So, I personally despise Gatorade as a electrolyte drink. It tastes great, but it has sugar. It has a high amount of sugar too, which sugar dehydrates you. So even though you're rehydrating to an extent, you're also dehydrating. It's not as effective. I personally, when I'm trying to rehydrate, I drink straight water. You can't mess up with that. or Propel for if you want something with electrolytes like sodium. Um, Propel has zero sugar. It's a great tool to use. I like it. There's other ones on the market too. A lot of ones that came out in the past 3, 4 years that are zero sugar alternatives to Gatorade for an electrolyte drink. Probably dozens at this point.
And then also, would a heat safety policy be a portion of a company's health policy or more of a standalone policy?
So it would be a part of the health and safety policies. Uh, some companies would add it into an actual SOP, but generally it's just going to be in the health policy and or safety policies, since it's directly dealing with the health and safety of the employees.
Are there any types of templates out there, like from OSHA or otherwise, for that
Yes,
kind of
one
stuff?
of the links that I have shared has templates.
Okay.
It
Yeah, I dropped
is
those
the
3 links in
employer
chat.
responsibility one.
Okay, so yeah, that very first one I dropped should have templates on that then. Awesome. I think that pretty much concludes it. And then we'll have you back again. So the second Wednesday of every month and the last Wednesday of every month, I believe.
Yep.
So, bam. If you guys
Yep.
have any questions, comments, concerns, if you guys want to see anything in particular or have questions, definitely drop that in the comments. And thank you guys for tuning in, GRC Mafia.
And our next one will be on mental health awareness.